What's you glad I tried it, but never again story. Hot air balloon. I was 4,500 feet in the air for an hour and a half, with nothing separating me from a horrifying death but a wicker basket. Stand-up comedy at an open mic. I enjoyed writing, I enjoyed being on stage once I got my first laugh, and I enjoyed the feeling after getting off stage. But the intense anxiety leading to being on stage was not even a little bit worth it for me. Public speaking is not my forte. Waxing my back. The process itself wasn't bad, but then again I have a high tolerance for pain. The woman waxing me kept commenting on how impressed she was that I didn't cry out in pain. The smoothness was great. The worst part was when, a few weeks later, it started growing back. The itching. Definitely not worth the cost, but glad I know this now. Beta Carolina Reaper. Lava fills your mouth and fire fills your stomach. An experience to be sure, but not ever again. Mardi Gras on Bourbon Street. It was a ton of fun, but it was also smelly, sticky, crowded, sweaty, and gross. They literally have front loaders to scoop up the trash from the street each night. Went back the NOLA this year out of season, and I loved the city so much more when it wasn't flooded with drunkards and garbage. I got to land in an auto-rotating helicopter being the only passenger. Auto-rotation is what helicopters do when they lose power at altitude. The force of the fall spins the blades of the helicopter, giving the pilot enough control to land. Thing is, once power is intentionally lost, which is in my case, the blades slow down and the helicopter falls until the blades spin back up to speed. We dropped like 50 feet. It was a rush but nope. Piloting a plane. My girlfriend got me a groupon for a lesson and I was super excited about it. The guy even let me take off. I was thinking, I don't know if you should hand your life over to a stranger, man. I barely trust myself. It was a very small plane so you feel every bit of wind and it was stressful for me. Maybe that goes away if you do it 5 times or so, but I just wanted to try it once. Now I'm good. Living in an apartment where I'm in charge of roommates. Had to evict people who didn't pay and dealt with extreme lack of cleanliness. It's honestly just easier to live somewhere small and cheap alone than a nice big place with roommates. Working at McDonald's. I now have high respect for people who work in service in general. I have learned to be more patient when waiting for my food whenever I'm at fast food restaurants. I know the painful stress they're experiencing and I won't put them through more by being an impatient asshole. But I will never, ever work there again. The stress is horrendous and people can be real jerks to the employers for no reason whatsoever. Times Square New Year's Eve. It was more like wake up at 6 a.m., breakfast, go stand until midnight. Snorkeling. I've actually done it a few times, but once I got stung bad by a jellyfish and the other time was on the Great Barrier Reef and I was literally terrified the entire time. Turns out I'm very afraid of open water. And sharks. But it was still quite a cool experience. Hiking while badly out of shape. I was way over my head in terms of the ascent and difficulty of the hike and I could swear that I used every muscle in my body. I came out of the hike scraped, super sweaty and muddy. I slept the best that I ever did that night and had endorphins shooting out of my eyes the next morning. I felt like I had superhero powers. Prepared for and ran a half marathon this May. I'll stick to 5K once a week, thank you very much. Going to a dance club. Too many people. Stressed me right out. Had to leave shortly after I showed up. But glad I attempted to go out of my comfort zone. I'll stick to bars and drinking at home. A huge burger with 2 giant donuts as buns. To be honest, it wasn't that bad, but that feeling of pure diabetes prevented me from getting another or even finishing the one I had. This was at a music festival in California. It was about twice the size of an In-N-Out burger with Krispy Kreme donuts. Polar plunge. Lake Michigan on January 1st in sub-zero temperatures. Getting my clothes back on took forever because I couldn't feel my extremities. It was an experience I'll always remember. Never again. I got a tattoo a couple weeks back on my left shoulder. Tons of folks told me it really isn't that painful, it's just a scratching sensation, it's no big deal. So I went for it and got quite a large full-color tattoo. As soon as the artist put the tattoo gun to my skin, I realized I'd made a mistake. The pain is different for everyone, and for me it felt like a hot saw being dragged through the skin. About 5 minutes and I nearly fainted thanks to a hot and humid day. We sat for 15 minutes, she got me a drink of Coke and I ditched my t-shirt. We managed to get through the whole thing, which was the most unpleasant 3.5 hours of my life. Tremendous kudos to the artist for her patience with me. Lesson learned. Start with a small tattoo, probably without color, which will take less than an hour, just to get a feel for how much it's gonna hurt. Do not go for something big and certainly don't go alone to a studio 2 hours from home. Roller coasters that go backwards. I'm not even sure if I'm glad I tried it. It was horrible. Heroin. I mistook it for coke and snorted a small line of it. I puked for 2 hours, then I experienced one of the most orgasmic afternoons of my life. It really was amazing, and I was terrified after, thinking how good it felt. I never touched any hard drugs since.